Others travel through time as noble ladies or princesses, but this girl becomes a child stepmother. Not only does she have an ugly husband, but her son also has a strange obsession with pointy things. After a day of going crazy, Lier finally accepted this reality. It's not the time to be sad. To survive, she must build good relationships with her husband and son, but should she start by dealing with the indifferent husband or the eccentric son? Just then, she heard voices outside the window. Looking up, she saw a cute little boy and was immediately startled if he belonged to this household. Wasn't he the eccentric son? Such an adorable child was completely different from the cruel psychopath described in the novel. So the adorable son became her priority over the husband, but Lier, who had never raised a child, had no idea where to start. The original story also mentioned the poor relationship between the protagonist and his mother, leaving him to hide with a maid to observe. Seeing such a cute child, she couldn't understand why the protagonist's mother would neglect him. Unexpectedly, she was discovered the next second. Who's there? Lier had no choice but to awkwardly step out and greet them. The little guy completely ignored her and turned to leave. Lier didn't want to miss such a good opportunity. She quickly squatted down and grabbed her son's sleeve. "Cardi, can you stay?" Unexpectedly, he shook off her hand and shouted, "I don't want a mom." Running too fast, he accidentally tripped. Faced with his suddenly affectionate mother, Cardi was at a loss. "You never cared before, so why now?" he said angrily before storming off. Lier was left dumbfounded, still thinking about the events of the day even into the evening, wondering if Cardi's injury had gotten better. It seemed their relationship was even worse than expected. Sudden closeness would indeed make her son uneasy. It had to be done gradually. Seeing the letter on the table, she came up with an idea and had the maid deliver it. Hoping this would bring her closer to Cardi, the next morning Cardi woke up to see a gift placed beside him. While verbally expressing disdain, his hands had already opened the package, revealing a teddy bear, a letter, and a pink box of ointment. Opening the letter, he found it filled with Lier's concern and maternal love. Cardi was confused. Why was the mother who used to despise him so troublesome suddenly so affectionate? Why had she suddenly become so kind? He hadn't even noticed that someone else had appeared beside him. Mom muttered as she stuffed the letter into the drawer, unaware that the servant had already seen through everything and secretly saved every letter. Should I throw away the gift like always? Cardi hesitated while looking at the teddy bear toy. He decided to toss the box but kept the doll in his room, pouting while muttering, "It's not because Mom gave it to me, I just like teddy bears myself." He even asked the servant to help deliver a reply. Meanwhile, Lier was overjoyed to receive the letter, thinking her efforts were finally paying off. But upon opening it, the message simply read that he didn't want any more letters or gifts. Still, even rejection was a response, and she told herself progress would need to be gradual. She decided to put aside the task of winning over her husband and focus on Cardi for now, asking where he was. Hearing he was in the courtyard, she wondered, could it be he wants to see me? She quickly dressed and headed to the courtyard, where sure enough, the little guy was sitting alone. He hadn't touched the prepared pastries. "Are you waiting for me?" she asked. Blushing, Cardi arrogantly responded, "No, I just always come here." Lier replied, "Then I'll just sit back and watch you eat. I won't disturb you." She darted to a spot behind him and watched her son eat sweets, thinking today Cardi is especially adorable. However, a week later, Lier stared silently at a pile of invitation letters, hastily writing copy-paste responses, thinking now is not the time for socializing. Watching Cardi eat cake in the courtyard was a busy task. She even wrote an observation diary for it. "Today I saw him frowning so cute. When I talked to Cardi, he ignored me, also very cute. When she greeted him today, he nodded slightly, so cute." This peculiar mindset made the maid wonder aloud, "Madam, have you hurt your head? Isn't this more like an enemy's diary?" The maid hesitated, suggesting whether they should show it to the young master. Unexpectedly, this sparked Lier's interest. "Do you think showing Cardi this would make us closer?" Without hesitation, she prepared to show it to him. The maid was left dumbfounded, thinking, has Madam lost her mind? But surprisingly, it actually helped improve their relationship. Using a teddy bear lollipop as a peace offering, Lier managed to enter Cardi's room, only to be surprised that its decor didn't resemble that of a child at all. She unexpectedly discovered that the teddy bear she had given was lying obediently on the bed. The little guy, trying to cover it up, attempted to hide it with a pillow, saying, "I just didn't have time to throw it away." "So what are you here for?" Lier proudly pulled out a journal. "This is something Mom wrote. Do you want to take a look?" Seeing his shy reaction to reading the journal, she thought he must still be an innocent child who didn't understand love and certainly wouldn't imprison others. At that moment, a flock of pigeons flew across the sky. Lier casually asked her son, "What would you do if you encountered a rare bird?" Cardi nonchalantly replied, "Then I would build a delicate bird cage." Lier was pleased, thinking her son was still kind-hearted and knew how to create a beautiful home for birds. But then Cardi continued, "Since it's a rare bird, it should be locked up so it can't go anywhere. Beautiful things should be kept for admiration. His statement shocked Lier, making her want to take back her earlier thoughts. This behavior was exactly like the protagonist's childhood self. Looking innocent, he asked Mom, "Why aren't you saying anything?" Lier could only give an awkward smile. Cardi's thoughts left her a bit stunned. Internally panicking, she wondered what had gone wrong. Could it be that the protagonist had always been different, even as a child? What should she do now? Since that day, Lier had been constantly thinking about how to educate her child properly, to the point that she didn't even hear the maid calling her several times. "Madam, what's wrong? Are you troubled by something?" Lier thought for a moment but decided not to tell the maid. Unexpectedly, the maid speculated, "Is it because the master is coming back soon?" Her words left Lier stunned. Wasn't master referring to her husband? Parenting was something that should be handled by both parents together. She realized this could be an opportunity to talk to him and devised a plan to use their child as a reason to get closer to her husband. She asked, "When will the Duke return?" The maid responded, "In the next couple of days. We're supposed to move to another place." Lier was puzzled by this remark. "What does that mean?" The maid explained, "Recently, Madam has shown great care for the young master and the atmosphere in the house has improved a lot. So I wanted to ask you for a favor. Could you welcome the master warmly when he returns?" Lier felt helpless, realizing just how poor the relationship between the household's head and her husband was. Without hesitation, she agreed. After all, a strained marriage would negatively affect the child. "Tell the people at the Duke's residence that I will host a grand welcoming ceremony. My beloved child must never become someone tainted by blood. Since I've become his mother, I will save him." The maid, excited by the news, quickly ran off to prepare. Lier happily hummed a tune while handling documents but suddenly remembered something. "What is my husband's name?" Meanwhile, as the Duke neared home, he grew melancholic, wondering, "Will I be turned away again? I don't even know if anyone is home." Unexpectedly, he saw many people standing at the entrance of the Duke's residence. The Duke was astonished. This was the first time anyone had welcomed him back. And his wife was personally leading the welcomes. "Welcome back, Duke. I've been waiting for you." The Duke stood motionless for a long time before speaking. "Am I hallucinating? Call a doctor immediately." His knights hurriedly reassured him this isn't a hallucination. Still, the Duke couldn't believe it and kept staring at Lier. Lier reminded him, "It's quite cold out here. Let's go inside." Perhaps the fall had damaged his brain. He mentally steeled himself for a long while before deciding to enter. Lier deliberately had the maid leave them alone. The Duke warily looked around. Why is there no one here? Then he saw his smiling wife. It was the first time he'd seen her smile like that. His hand instinctively reached out to rest on her shoulder. "Let's go eat first," Lier suggested. The Duke was puzzled. Is something going on in the dining room? Lier pulled out a chair with a smile. "I have something to discuss with you." The Duke's grip on the chair tightened. He figured there had to be a reason for this sudden display of warmth. Throughout the meal, he sulked in silence. Lier was equally frustrated. "What's going on? He's being so cold even after I prepared so much." Furiously cutting her steak, she pondered how to start a conversation. "Duke, I have something to say." The Duke remained cold. "Go ahead then." Lier forced herself to speak. "The expedition must have been difficult, right? It's not an easy task." The Duke immediately set down his utensils. "Aren't you more interested in me getting injured? Be honest, what do you want?" Lier smiled on the surface but internally fumed, imagining giving him a military-style punch. "You're way too cautious. I just want to talk about the child's education." The Duke, faced with his wife's sudden change, was skeptical. "Don't you hate me? Why are you pretending to be close?" Lier, panicking, rushed to explain, "No, I'm not pretending." In her haste, she unexpectedly stumbled forward. Fortunately, the Duke dashed forward and caught her. Lier wanted to say something but was in too much pain to speak. The man who had just been mocking his wife moments ago could no longer hold back his emotions and let out a loud shout of concern. Anxiously asking why this suddenly happened, Lier couldn't help but retort, "You're really bold to ask me that when I welcomed you so warmly. Yet you didn't even express thanks and kept a sour face during the meal. How can your body, just barely recovered, endure this?" The Duke turned away with a sorrowful expression. "Don't you hate me? Every time I get close, you just yell at me to get lost." Holding Lier's hand, he said, "It's like you don't remember anything. Your hand felt cold just now. Even if you dislike me, at least let me do this." A sudden voice broke the ambiguous atmosphere and the Duke stepped away at the right moment. Lier's carefully prepared plan to get closer to her husband for the sake of her son had completely failed. She hadn't expected it to be so difficult to bond with the two men in the house. The next morning, Lier was woken up early by birdsong as she tried to review yesterday's plan. A warm family meal clearly won't work, she thought, still feeling nauseous. She had to come up with another plan quickly. Just then, someone knocked on the door. Lier was puzzled. She had already instructed the maid not to let anyone in. If someone was coming at this time, it must be Cardi or the Duke. With excitement, she opened the door. There stood her adorable son holding a bear-shaped lollipop. On the surface, she remained calm, but inwardly her heart was flipping. He must have come because he was worried about her being sick. The little guy turned his head away arrogantly and said, "Eat it. You'll feel better." Lier accepted it with a smile. "Thank you, son, for thinking of mom." Facing his beautiful mother, Cardi's face turned red as he awkwardly insisted, "I didn't come on my own. It's just because you called me." Lier knew her son's little thoughts but didn't expose them. "No matter the reason, I'm thankful that Cardi came." The little guy blushed and stared intently at Lier. Suddenly, he crossed his arms like a little adult and said, "If you're so tired you get indigestion, then don't eat with Dad." Lier thought it was out of concern and smiled, "Once I get used to it, it won't happen anymore." But Cardi's face darkened. "You're saying you'll keep eating with him?" Lier groaned inwardly, "I don't want to either, it's all for you." Unexpectedly, Cardi shouted, "Aren't you going to keep eating with Dad? Are mealtimes always going to be like this?" After speaking, he quickly ran off. Lier immediately realized he might be jealous of his father. She rushed forward and hugged the upset Cardi tightly. "To Mom, Cardi is the most important. Time with Cardi is more precious than with anyone else." Seeing her silent son, she thought he still disliked her until the next second when he hugged her back. "When you're sick, you have to sleep well and remember to eat my chocolate, okay?" Lier hadn't realized having such an adorable child could be so blissful. A few days later, Lier had fully recovered. She prepared a gift for Cardi, a special cake she had made after consulting the head chef. Hoping Cardi would like it, she went to the garden with anticipation and found the little guy there as expected. Seeing Lier approach, he even asked about her health. After sitting down, she took out the homemade cake. The little guy's eyes lit up instantly and he eagerly picked up a piece to taste. The next second, his face filled with concern as they both watched expectantly. "It's super awful," he said, though upon learning his mother had made it. He started devouring it anyway, and Lier couldn't stop him. While eating, he explained, "I'm fine, I'm eating because I want to." After finishing one piece, he wiped his mouth and asked for another. Lier looked at the little guy across from her with gratitude. "This is not the male protagonist from the novel, is it? He's clearly just an ordinary, cute child. Thank you, Mom will keep working hard." The next day, Lier decided to continue with her plan to get closer to her husband for her son. She eagerly knocked on the office door. The door was opened by the Duke's assistant. Lier carefully walked over to the desk and said, "I'm not quite sure, but can we talk privately?" To her surprise, the Duke immediately rejected her with a cold, "I'm very busy." His tone was as cold as the snow falling in winter. After saying that, he added, "Didn't you hear me? I'm very busy, please leave." The assistant, who was a keen observer, quickly stated that he would leave. "There's no need for that, go back to your position." Lier was speechless. He couldn't spare even a moment to talk with his wife. In the end, she had no choice but to leave. As soon as she stepped out, she gave the Duke a mental dragon-subduing palm. It seemed that the Duke wasn't going to be easily won over. She would have to find another excuse next time. The following day, Lier was in her room thinking about what fairy tale book to read to her son. At that moment, the maid handed her a letter. Opening it, she found it was a letter thanking her for attending the child's birthday party. Lier was puzzled. Hadn't she already declined the previous invitation? Suddenly, she remembered the invitation she had forgotten last time due to the maid's conversation. "A birthday party?" Lier groaned in frustration, but the maid suddenly looked startled and asked, "Are we preparing a birthday party for the young master?" "Though it's still early, I'll do my best. But the Marquis of Fenzer, I feel like I've heard of him somewhere." Suddenly, she recalled that he was the handsome blonde man in the book who worked at the Land Administration Bureau. But if he worked there, then he must be the one Cardi killed. Suddenly, Lier felt a complex, indescribable feeling toward her son. Now, Cardi shouldn't kill him, right? "That's right, I will raise him to be a normal child." On the other side, the Duke was still waiting for his wife to come to him. Ever since the horse-drawn carriage incident, he had become strange. He used to be cold and distant, never smiling at him. But recently, his wife always found various reasons to see him, always with a smile on her face. He quietly wondered if today his wife would also come to him smiling. The ink was almost running out, but he was completely oblivious. The assistant was so shocked by his exhausted appearance. "It seems like the madam is taking more medicine than usual today. Should I go check?" To his surprise, the Duke stood up, citing that it was too stuffy in here and he needed to go out for a walk, leaving the poor assistant to deal with piles of documents alone. He didn't forget to remind the assistant at the door, "If you're looking for the madam, she often goes to the garden. I hope you have a great time." As the Duke walked near the library, he heard his son yelling Lier. Then he heard his wife's voice, "Why does Cardi say mommy is a liar? Every time you go find her first. Didn't you say I'm the most important?" Hearing this, the Duke became unsettled, however, before he could feel happy. He overheard Lier saying, "Of course, it's best to be with Cardi." The little guy still pouted, clearly displeased. Lier pulled her son's hand and said, "Actually, I just wanted to ask Cardi if he wants to join me for the Marquis Fenzer's birthday. Should we bring a gift?" After hearing the affirmative answer, tears couldn't help but stream down her face. "You have never prepared a birthday gift for me." This also made Lier suddenly recall the memories of the garden master. The little one only wanted a birthday greeting from his mother. But he was met with indifference. She didn't expect the garden master to be so harsh with the child, just recalling it was heartbreaking. Lier tried hard to calm Cardi's emotions. "I'm sorry, my dear, I shouldn't have treated you like that. I'll never leave you alone again." After much effort, she finally managed to stop the little one from crying. "Shall we hold a grand birthday party for Cardi?" The little one initially refused, but when he heard there would be a huge birthday cake, he was completely tempted. He still acted proudly, saying whatever. Lier didn't expect the birthday wish to be the gift Cardi wanted the most. Thinking about how she used to be, Lier's heart broke even more. "How about tomorrow we set aside some time for Mom? We'll hold the party in Cardi's favorite courtyard. How about that?" The Duke, who had been hiding outside the door, also overheard the key information about tomorrow's party being held in the courtyard. To prepare for this, the Duke forced his assistant to work overtime and finish all the tasks in advance. The next day, he arrived at the courtyard early. He discovered they hadn't planned to invite him. He had arrived just as they were singing the birthday song. The little one also blew out the candles amidst everyone's well wishes. Lier felt as though she was being stared at. Turning around, she locked eyes with the Duke. "Duke, what brings you here? What are you doing?" Lier pointed to the people in the courtyard. "As you can see, we're hosting a birthday party. Cardi said he dislikes crowds, so we only invited a few close people." The Duke suddenly seemed a bit displeased. "Why do you always do things so out of character?" Lier couldn't help but think, he always says he's so busy, so why is he suddenly here? Thus, the two began a black and white battle. For some reason, Lier could only occasionally remember the original owner's matters, and she was completely unaware of the Duke's questions. But she didn't forget to invite the Duke to participate in Cardi's education, only to hear the Duke's irrelevant question. "Why have you been calling my son AI Cheng? Why do you always call me Dukes? You don't know my name, do you?" Stunned by her husband's question, Lier was momentarily speechless. She had specifically asked earlier what his name was, but now she couldn't remember. She had never called him by his full name and wanted to play dumb to avoid it. Unexpectedly, the Duke kept pressing her. In a panic, she blurted out AI Cheng with a clever grin. The Duke's heart raced, but he silently turned his face away, maintaining his composure. Lier thought she might have said something wrong, or perhaps she forgot his full name and just called him AI Cheng on impulse. She awkwardly explained, "I just wanted to call you AI Cheng. Is that okay?" The Duke couldn't hear her explanation anymore. His mind was filled with thoughts like, "She used to call me Duke, but now she calls me AI Cheng. Has she opened up to me? If this continues, I..." With a red face, he quickly muttered, "I have something to do. I'll leave now." He walked out of her sight in a clumsy, hurried manner. Just as the Duke left, Cardi quickly ran out and grabbed his mother's skirt. "What did you and Dad talk about? We didn't talk about anything." Thinking to herself, could it be that the child wants his father's blessing? She never considered this possibility, so she squatted down and apologized to her son. "Are you angry because I didn't invite Dad to the birthday party?" Actually, Dad also wanted to give Cardi his blessing, but he's too busy. He left before he could even say hi. The little one didn't want his father's blessing. He just wanted his mom to return and eat cake together. Lier couldn't help but shout inwardly, "Our Cardi is just too adorable." The little one was eating the cake in small bites under everyone's gaze. He didn't forget to ask his mom if she would give him her blessing in the future. His cute behavior left everyone speechless. "From now on, every year I will give Cardi my blessing." The subsequent birthday parties would be even grander. Lier couldn't help but shed tears. A voice in her heart echoed, "I hope you can forgive me this time," even though she couldn't hear it. Cardi, seeing his mom suddenly crying, became very anxious. "I heard that eating sweets can make you feel better. This cake is delicious, try it." Lier took a bite of the cake from Cardi's hand. She wasn't sure if it was because of the strange memory that had invaded her mind earlier, but she felt like she didn't deserve to be this happy. A few days later, Lier had finished replying to the social letters but didn't know where to go next. Her son was unhappy that she went to play without him and insisted that she must find him first next time. Meanwhile, Lier continued to visit the Duke every day. This time, she even broke tradition and stayed with him. But she asked, "Can I come to see you first next time?" Lier was overwhelmed by this father-son duo. "How can they be so identical? I only have one body, how can I be in two places at once?" Just as Lier was distressed, the maid suggested a solution, and that's how the current scene came about. The three of them were in the same room but said nothing. Lier pretended to drink tea, unable to figure out how things had turned out like this. This wasn't going to work. So she tried to speak and ease the tension, but as soon as she spoke two words, both turned to her at once and asked, "What is it?" Lier didn't expect this. She awkwardly said, "I wasn't calling you Duke, I was calling you AI Cheng." To her surprise, the Duke really liked this casual nickname. Lier had no choice but to repeat, "I meant our Cardi." Even without looking, Lier could feel the Duke's gaze. She chose to ignore it. "Do you remember our agreement to celebrate the birthday?" Cardi, who had the upper hand, was quite smug. "You mean the one where Mom and I go together?" He deliberately emphasized Mom and I, and the Duke, hearing this, involuntarily broke his pen, completely distracted from his work. To ensure Cardi wouldn't bully the Marquis, Lier made an agreement with Cardi to get along well with other children of his age. Cardi obediently agreed to his mother's request and behaved so well that Lier couldn't help but praise him. Before she could finish, she was interrupted by a flurry of papers flying around and the Duke's loud cough. Lier could only walk over and comfort him. "Are you okay? Do you want me to call a doctor?" The Duke didn't answer. Instead, he grabbed his wife's hand. "Do you really like our son that much?" Lier was somewhat puzzled by the Duke's sudden question. "Of course, he's our son." Hearing this, both of them were very happy. One was happy because of the hour and the other because, "Of course, I like my son." Lier didn't expect these two men to be so easily satisfied. They were like completely different people from when they first showed caution. The next day, the mother and son wore matching outfits to attend the birthday party. The little one secretly pulled off his tie and coquettishly asked his mom to help him tie it. Just as she tied the knot, she was startled by people suddenly appearing behind her. "Are you here to escort us?" The Duke quickly came up with an excuse, saying he had to go out for a bit. His assistant shook his head at this reason. "At critical moments, I still have to rely on my wife. It's really amazing that your route matches the Duke's exactly. How about we share a carriage?" Before the words were even finished, Cardi directly refused. Lier also thought the carriage today was too small and might not fit them, but the atmosphere between the two was very strange today. The Duke wanted to get closer to his son, but Cardi kept rejecting him out of shyness. As his mother, of course, Lier wanted to help, so she suggested preparing another carriage for the Duke and Cardi to ride together. Both of them immediately froze, then quickly walked in opposite directions. Lier had a feeling that she had said something wrong again and could only silently board the carriage, but the little one seemed still upset. Lier had to use her special tactic. "I heard that every party at Marquis Fen's place has amazing desserts." Sure enough, when desserts were mentioned, Cardi's eyes lit up. "I even specially asked them to make Cardi's favorite walnut pie." The little one finally couldn't hide his excited expression. But then he realized he was still upset and turned his face away, acting proudly. "I'm not a little kid who likes to eat." Soon, the carriage arrived at Marquis Fen's mansion. After getting off the carriage, the little one gentlemanly helped his mother down. As they entered the mansion, they saw many exquisite desserts. Lier looked at Cardi with joy but pretended to act annoyed. It was just too cute. Up ahead, Lady Fens came to welcome them. Lier was very excited about the Marquis's image ball, which like a camera could turn photos into albums. She eagerly asked the Duchess where she could buy one. Cardi's face suddenly turned cold as if a flame had appeared. "You're not getting away with this," he said, glaring. Lier could only feel regret. He was so cute but couldn't be the focus. The next moment, the two of them entered their own battle zone. Lier followed Lady Fens to the garden, but before she could sit down, she was met with sarcastic comments. "So this is from the Lepara Duke's family. Since everyone is here, can I ask a question? I bought a dog, but it doesn't listen to its owner. Is it because it's expensive?" She then turned to Lier. "What do you think, Mrs. Lepara?" Lier was caught off guard by the sudden question and had no idea what this person was talking about. But she still honestly gave her opinion. "Maybe you should patiently teach it so it can behave better." The two people nearby couldn't help but interrupt. "I think it's unnecessary to spend so much effort on a dog. If it's disobedient, it should be dealt with immediately. An expensive dog that doesn't know its place should be replaced." Lier instantly realized that their words were loaded with hidden meaning. The dog and the owner referred to her and the Duke. "What's wrong with this woman?" Fortunately, after they finished talking, they didn't continue with the topic, so Lier decided not to engage any further. But to her surprise, the fat woman came to pick another fight. "I think if the Duke allows you to invite guests into the mansion, then the husband should listen to his wife, right? So I think you can invite me." Lier declined, saying it wasn't convenient without the Duke's approval. "Oh dear, it seems the Duke really." Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by the Marchioness. "I also have a very cute pet eagle, but sometimes I can't understand what she says. She always says strange, rude things. I don't know where she learned them." Lier, who was standing by, was so moved that tears streamed down her face. The Marchioness was on her side. Immediately, Lier eagerly asked, "How did you correct her?" "What else could I do? After all, she's just a bird. How can I get rid of her for a few rude words? It's not like she's having an affair with the royal knights behind my back." The fat woman nearby immediately blushed. Realizing her own affair had been exposed, she hastily muttered, "I have something to handle," and hurriedly left the courtyard. The little followers also quickly slipped away. After this incident, Lier's admiration for the Marchioness grew like an unstoppable river. In the courtyard, only the two of them remained, facing each other as old enemies from the past life. The boy came up and the first thing he did was praise his mother. Cardi was sitting at the table eating walnut candy. The boy's sudden interruption made Cardi slightly disdainful. If it weren't for my mom's special instruction, I wouldn't play with such a childish kid. But still, he generously took out a piece of the candy and gave it to the boy. This walnut candy was specially made by my family's chef for my party. Aren't you jealous? Not saying anything further, Cardi remembered his mother's words. He should get along well with other children. He silently listened to the boy's chatter, but when the boy said, "My mom praises me every day. Does your mom do that?" Cardi couldn't hold back any longer and wanted to compare. "My mom praises me so often that it's annoying." "I don't think so. My mom must do it better than your mom. You don't even know how often my mom praises me." And so the two continued to compete with each other for 10 minutes, until a fat child interrupted them. The child pointed at Cardi and said, "My mom says you're a wild dog with barbarian blood in you. Playing with you will bring a curse." Cardi, upon hearing this, simply asked, "Can you take responsibility for what you just said?" This made the fat child break into a cold sweat and run away. At this moment, the fat woman who had fled earlier came to find her child. Seeing this, Cardi couldn't help but comment, "She and her mother really do look alike." Meanwhile, the two mothers were still exchanging parenting tips. Suddenly, Lier felt a splitting headache as unfamiliar memories surged in. A man was shouting at little Lier, "You must use your face to build connections with the nobility." The man seemed to be the original owner's father. Once she recovered, she planned to find Cardi and return home, following the Marchioness to the courtyard. She was still thinking about whether Cardi would get into a fight. After all, the scenes from the novel were vivid in her mind, but then she heard the news that Cardi was crying. She immediately ran to the scene. Upon seeing her mother, Cardi ran into her arms, crying. "Who made my child cry?" In Lier's view, it was fine to bully her, but Cardi was off limits. "Madam Chatty, you'd better explain what happened." The fat woman trembled and stammered, "My child made a small mistake and said your son has barbarian blood in him. But you know, this is just a joke between children. Do you really think this is something you can ignore? I will say this only once. Please apologize to my son." The fat woman, realizing she couldn't get away with it, grabbed her son and made him apologize. The boy had no choice but to come out and apologize. Unexpectedly, the fat woman still tried to reach out to touch Cardi. Lier immediately protected the child behind her and warned the fat woman, "I will not allow anyone who hits children to touch my child. I will let my husband handle this matter. In my eyes, the child is not at fault. The mistake lies with the parents who don't know how to teach their children to be kind. No one can be so careless in raising a child. This is why I can't forgive you." After saying this, she took the little one and went home. On the carriage, she kept comforting Cardi. She had originally thought the closed-off male lead in the novel would be a bully, but she didn't expect that Cardi was still just a child. "I'm sorry, Mom should be with you." Although the little one had just cried, he hadn't forgotten to show off to his mom, saying he had been getting along well with the other children. "So Mom, don't leave me anymore." These words made Lier feel heartbroken. Since coming here, she had been working hard to make up for the maternal love Cardi had been missing. But she still couldn't understand why the original owner treated the child this way. In Lier's heart, Cardi was no longer the male lead of this world. He was completely her son now. At this moment, the little one suddenly pouted and got angry. "I kept my promise. Don't I deserve some gift?" Lier mischievously pretended to say there was no gift. The little one pouted even harder, but when he heard his mom say, "Of course there's a gift. I can grant you a wish," he immediately became happy. "Then I want Mom to read me a fairy tale every night." Lier was confused. She didn't expect Cardi's only wish to be this simple. That child said his mother read him a story every day. Lier then understood. The little one was comparing his mom to that other mom. "I hope next time Cardi can have fun too." By the time they returned to the Duke's mansion, it was already evening. The weather was gradually getting warmer. "How about we go boating together to cool off?" Cardi was very happy when he heard they would go together. But together should not include Dad. "I don't want to go with Dad, I only want to go with Mom." However, Lier had not forgotten that a harmonious family is necessary to raise a good child. "Mom will try her best for you." That evening, after returning to the room, Lier finally had time to think about the events of the day. She didn't understand why Lady Zaddy had so much hostility. She also heard that the Duke was called a barbarian and guessed that perhaps the garden master had been forced into marriage. That's why she didn't like her husband and child. Lier came here with no memories of the garden master, only some past habits. Lier felt that something was strange, so she asked the maid what barbarian meant in the Empire. To her surprise, the maid was greatly frightened by the question. Lier had to explain that she had heard it from the Countess. Lady Zaddy's son said that Cardi, with the heart of a barbarian, would curse anyone who came into contact with him. After that accident, he had forgotten many things. The maid didn't expect her lady had lost her memory recently, which explained the drastic changes. It also explained why she was so nice to the young master. Lier understood from the maid's words that the maid was worried that if the lady regained her memory, she would become like before. Lier firmly stated that she wouldn't change. Now she understood how important Cardi was. However, the maid still believed that this matter should not be known by the Duke. If the Duke knew that his wife only treated him well again because she lost her memory, he would surely feel so hurt that he'd close off his heart. However, the Duke would never hate his wife, otherwise he wouldn't have spent so much gold to marry her. Lier was extremely shocked upon hearing this. She hadn't expected that the head gardener had been sold off by her father. She always thought the Duke had taken her by force. It turns out the Duke was the one who saved the head gardener from a dark family. With this, she agreed with the maid's idea. To avoid suspicion, she refrained from asking about the matter herself. She told the maid to report back once there were follow-up results. After the maid left, Lier tried to recall the head gardener's memories but ended up with nothing. Cardi is a child who lacks love. Though she says she doesn't care, deep down, she's always hoped for her mother's love. The Duke also appears indifferent, but he has been caring for her in unseen ways. Both of them are truly good people. What memories is the head gardener hiding to treat them this way? A week later, summer arrived. The maid excitedly brought good news about the chatty Count's family. Countess Chatty is no longer the Countess. Lier hadn't expected things to progress so quickly. The maid leaned in and revealed an even more shocking piece of news. Countess Chatty had an affair with a guard. Moreover, the child at the party wasn't even the Count's biological son, so what Lady Finzel said at the party was true. No wonder Countess Chatty fled in embarrassment back then. However, all of this was their own doing. Now it was time to check on her precious little son. She asked the maid where Cardi was and learned that he was playing in the library. She decided to bring some sweets to find him. But when she arrived at the library, it was unusually quiet. She called out Cardi's name, but no one answered. Finally, she found her son sleeping in a corner. She wanted to wake him up and take him to sleep on the bed. But when she touched Cardi's little face, it was burning hot and his skin looked red. Lier panicked immediately. She didn't know whether it was because of a fever or the influence of flame magic. Frantically, she picked Cardi up to take him to a doctor. The boy didn't mind making himself sick just to experience the feeling of having his mom by his side. At the last gathering, his friends not only bragged about their moms telling them bedtime stories every night, but also how their moms stayed by their side, holding their hands when they were sick. Cardi had never experienced this feeling even once. She also wanted her mom to stay by her side when she was sick. Though she felt this way deep down, outwardly, she would complain about the boy's weak health. She believed that her mom's love was far more significant than what ordinary kids received. Unexpectedly, her body's magic went out of control and made her sick. After the doctor examined her, it turned out to be just temporary physical pain. However, this condition might continue for a while longer. Even so, Lier remained very worried, as Cardi's body now felt as hot as fire. The doctor explained that Cardi's internal flame magic was growing, and that her body needed to adapt to the sudden changes. Only basic treatment could be provided for now. Even with this explanation, Lier was still deeply concerned, so she decided to stay with Cardi tonight and personally take care of her. Cardi, due to fever, slept restlessly, crying and saying, "So hot my head hurts." Lier felt heartbroken looking at the little one. In a daze, Cardi opened her eyes and saw her mom. Unexpectedly, Cardi's first time calling her mom happened at such a moment. The little one pitifully said that he actually didn't get along well with the other children and hoped Lier wouldn't hate him. He promised to try harder in the future. Lier hurriedly hugged the child and comforted him, saying that Mom would never hate Cardi. She was very happy that he could remember the promise with Mom. From now on, he didn't have to force himself to get along with other children. Cardi's happiness was the most important thing. A few minutes later, she finally comforted the crying child. She placed Cardi in the blanket and reminded him to rest more so he could get better quickly. Once he was well, they would go rowing as promised. It would definitely be very fun. Cardi suddenly asked his mom to read a storybook until he fell asleep. Though Lier didn't understand, she picked up the book. Just like that, Cardi gradually fell asleep to the sound of Lier reading. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the Duke, who was always a worry, suddenly barged in and shouted, "Lier, why aren't you asleep yet?" Lier hurriedly gestured for him to keep quiet. She hadn't expected the Duke not to have gone to bed yet. She thought he must have come because he was worried about Cardi, working late into the night and still finding time to visit. However, it seemed he liked hiding his emotions. She reassured the Duke not to worry. She would stay here with Cardi all night, but this only made the Duke puzzled. He would never have acted like this before. Lier explained that she wanted to make some changes. "But you've always hated me and Cardi. That day when the child cried, why did you get angry? Even if it was true, you should have remained calm," she added, as he suddenly asked to hold her hand. Lier hesitated before reaching out. The Duke questioned again, "You never let me touch you before. Now you not only call me by my name but are willing to let me hold your hand. Did you lose your memory after that incident?" Realization hit the Duke that his wife had lost her memory. If it were the old Lier, she would have always been cold and distant, not like this, gentle and affectionate. Lier hadn't expected that the secret she wanted to bury deep inside was discovered. She was afraid that the Duke would be hurt if he knew the truth. The Duke, however, felt that without all the past events, perhaps Lier would continue to treat him well like she was now. He was deeply attached to Lier's smile, like a flower blooming in spring. He also longed for the soft voice calling his name, hoping that Lier would continue to treat him like this until she regained her memory, even if it was just for a short period of tenderness. Facing her husband's heartfelt confession, Lier could only feel out of breath. His arms were too tight around her, but she still answered the Duke seriously. "If this is what you want, I will do it. I know you're a gentle and considerate husband. Your coldness was also because you were afraid that once I regained my memory, I would continue to hate you like before. You would also forget everything that's happened now." The Duke was deeply moved, realizing that his wife understood everything in his heart. Hearing his wife's promise that she wouldn't forget his kindness just because she regained her memory, he finally felt a bit of relief. "I was so afraid that all of this would suddenly disappear. If you no longer say anything to me, then I really wouldn't know what to do." Lier couldn't help but laugh when she saw the Duke like this. This was a completely different person from the cold and sarcastic Duke she had first known. Now he was so cute. The Duke explained that back then he didn't know Lier had lost her memory, he just thought she was playing him. Now he realized the truth wasn't like that. He also suddenly confessed his feelings, saying, "I will always look forward to your smile. Even when you're cold to me, I still love you. No matter how pushy you were to me before, your smile can still melt my heart." Lier was shy from the Duke's sudden closeness and confession. A handsome, wealthy man saying sweet words right in front of her who wouldn't be moved. Although Lier was happy their relationship had progressed, this pose was too embarrassing. Plus, Cardi was still sleeping beside them. Stammering, Lier asked the Duke not to get so close, only to be met with ruthless teasing. "How did my wife become a stammerer? Her face is so red." The Duke mischievously leaned in even closer. Lier quickly stopped him. "Aren't you here to see Cardi?" "I came to see Cardi, but I'm also very worried about you." Lier pouted, complaining that the Duke never said sweet things before. Every time she went to his office, he would refuse her due to being busy with work. The Duke patiently explained that he actually wanted to visit Lier, knowing that these happy moments would pass quickly. "So I cherish them more. I'm actually very scared, but I can't bear to leave. From now on, I won't run away. I will always love you." The Duke, seemingly aloof and powerful on the outside, secretly competed fiercely with his son for affection. After confessing his feelings, the Duke wanted to stay close to his wife, but Lier didn't expect him to be so willing. To stay here with her, he even handed over his work to the miserable employees. Ignoring their son, who was sleeping beside them, he kept talking about his wife. Fortunately, Cardi woke up from his sleep. Lier quickly turned around to check on the little one's condition. Cardi, still groggy, said, "My head feels dizzy." Lier brought a damp towel and placed it on his forehead. The little one didn't forget to tease his dad. "If only Mom was the only one here with me, I'd feel better faster." Hearing this, the Duke felt something was off. Sure enough, the next moment, Lier gently asked the Duke to leave. The Duke, wanting to prove he was still useful, started to say he had been like this as a child. Before he could finish, his spoiled son interrupted him. "Mom, he's so loud, my head hurts." The Duke couldn't believe his son's acting was so impressive, almost Oscar-worthy. Hiding in Lier's arms, Cardi smirked at his dad, who was left watching from the side and facing the risk of being kicked out. The Duke wanted to say something, but Lier stopped him. "Cardi needs to rest, please leave." After hearing this, the Duke reluctantly left. Victorious, Cardi became even more smug. The next day, as soon as the sun rose, Lier was persuaded by the servants sent by the Duke to go back to sleep. After sleeping for a while, she had been working ever since, inquiring about Cardi's condition when she heard someone knock on the door. Lier's first reaction was that it was the Duke. She quickly reminded herself to stay calm. Shortly after the maid entered with Cardi, Lier didn't expect it was her son who had come. She hurried to check his condition. The little one said, "I feel so lonely without Mom around." Lier was very pleased. Cardi had finally opened up to her. The little one tugged at her skirt, asking if she was busy. "If you're not busy, I want to stay with you." Lier was worried Cardi might get bored while she was handling things. Cardi happily said it's fine and ran to get a stool to sit by the desk. "I'll sit here quietly and wait for you to finish your work, then you can read me a fairy tale." She sat there until it started raining outside. The maid sighed, mentioning that it had been raining frequently lately. Lier remembered her plan for a lake trip with Cardi that still hadn't happened. It seemed like they would have to change the time. Cardi, eating cake, didn't seem to care. "I don't recommend it, but Dad is definitely too busy to go." He has always had a lot of official duties and doesn't like doing these things. Just as he finished speaking, the main person appeared in front of the two of them. Lier was startled by the sudden appearance of the person. Just as Cardi said, I am indeed very busy, but you will always be my #1 priority. I will definitely make time to go with you. Cardi then turned her attention to the carriage. Mom will ride in the same carriage and accompany me, right? Before Lier could respond, the Duke said, we are a couple, so we should be together. The big and small ones began to argue while using the carriage as an excuse, with Lier caught in the middle being pulled in both directions. I must make them live in harmony so that Cardi can have a good family atmosphere. A thought suddenly appeared in my mind. I stood up and told them not to argue anymore and to leave the room. Both of them were shocked upon hearing this. Father and son started fighting over the affection. This childish behavior finally met with Lier's punishment. If you keep arguing, both of you should leave. After saying this, Lier directed her criticism at her husband. As a father, how can you be so childish toward your child? The Duke tried to argue. But what followed was even harsher criticism from his wife. Afterward, she looked at Cardi. You are also at fault. As a son, you should not speak to your father like that. Your father also wants to spend more time with you, but he has adult responsibilities that he must fulfill. We should understand Dad. Cardi felt guilty after hearing his mother's words and immediately confessed his mistake, promising not to act like that again. However, Lier wasn't planning to let the father and son off so easily. The mischievous smile on Lier's face made both of them inwardly worry. Now, both of you must hold hands until you can peacefully coexist. Both of them turned pale upon hearing this. Lier completely ignored their protests. She ordered the maid to take the father and son to the hall. The two of them arrived in the hall with expressionless faces. To fulfill Lier's request, the Duke directly picked up his son. This way, holding hands was a bit easier. Cardi pouted and handed his hand to his father, then turned to tell the maid to report this scene to Mom. The Duke carried Cardi through the mansion. This unusual behavior caused the servants to gossip. The Duke felt embarrassed, not expecting so many servants in the mansion. Cardi was also complaining, this is all because of Dad. If you agreed to let me and Mom sit in the same carriage, we wouldn't have ended up like this. The Duke, facing his son's complaint, could only awkwardly turn his head away. He finally realized that Cardi was just a few years old, and here he was, treating him like this because of his selfishness. No wonder his wife was upset. But Cardi never expected that his father would suddenly apologize. His eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at his father. Then he shyly turned his face away. No matter what, Mom still likes me more. The Duke, unwilling to admit defeat, replied, even if Lier likes you more, I am still her husband. But the idea that she likes you more is just a misunderstanding. The maid behind them had been watching everything and noticed that their relationship seemed to be getting closer. After circling the mansion, they returned to the room, only to find Lier had already fallen asleep, lying on the table. Seeing this as a perfect opportunity to show his strength as a husband, the Duke decisively picked up Lier, preparing to carry her back to the room. However, he found that she unexpectedly felt very affectionate. The maid watched the couple and couldn't help but ship them. The lady often worries that His Highness doesn't eat well. Why not eat together and take care of the lady instead? She even performed dramatically, saying the lady often eats alone and has no appetite. She always wants to find you to eat together but doesn't know how to ask. Oh no, I accidentally revealed this secret. It's my fault. The Duke, hearing that his wife wanted to eat with him, was overjoyed in his heart. He promised not to tell anyone, but is it really true? Of course, I would never lie to you, Your Highness. After receiving the satisfactory answer, the Duke prepared to carry his wife back to the room. Who would have thought that their son would stop them, saying, Mom took care of me all night, and I want to be with her. The Duke had already anticipated that his son would seize the opportunity. So the two of them together escorted Lier back to the room. Cardi looked at the sleeping Lier and sighed, Mom really looks beautiful. And now she's very kind to me. The Duke agreed with his son. In the past, I would get angry with anyone. Now it's completely different. Do you remember my favorite cake flavor? Especially when I was reading, you were like an angel. The Duke proudly agreed with his son's words. The sudden compliment made Lier, who had already woken up, blush with shyness. Although it was embarrassing, they seemed to be getting along very well. Now, should she open her eyes or pretend to be asleep? She finally decided to continue pretending to sleep, but after a long time, she heard no sound. She cautiously opened one eye to check the situation and found that both father and son were looking at her in unison. With a look of determination, they began to shower her with compliments. The sudden praise made Lier, who was pretending to sleep, blush. It turned out that father and son had known she was awake all along. Lier had no choice but to awkwardly pretend she didn't know anything and ask if their relationship had improved. Cardi quickly answered the question, because Mom wants us to do this, we will get better and better. In my eyes, you are the best mom in the world. If you're still tired, you can continue sleeping, but can I sleep with you? Lier immediately hugged the little one after hearing this. Proud Cardi began teasing his dad. I think it's time for you to leave now. Didn't you forget what mom said? Don't talk to dad like that. Cardi held his mom's hand, feeling shy, and said, I just love mom so much that I want to be the person you love most. I don't dislike dad. Lier happily hugged the little one, and the Duke, who had been watching, spoke pitifully, can I sleep with you too? Cardi generously patted the space next to him and said, this time I'll allow it. I agreed because mom wants us to get better, so the Duke got to sleep in the big bed as he wished. Soon, little Cardi fell into a deep sleep. The warm scene made the Duke feel like it wasn't real. Everything now felt like a dream, a scene he had fantasized about countless nights. He never expected it to come true. And there was his wife's smiling face, saying that she wanted him to agree to go rowing in a few days. He couldn't help but think of how, when they were children, she invited him to play together a few days later. Then he tightly embraced the two of them, saying, this time I will keep my promise. The next day, as soon as he arrived at work, his assistant noticed that he was in a good mood, but there was a lot of work to do today. We still have so much time, why are we in such a hurry to finish? He unexpectedly found out about the master's record of going boating. No wonder recently he personally went to many places to investigate. The assistant, who also wanted to gossip, was ruthlessly sent by the Duke to work. Just then Lier knocked on the office door, and a little one popped out, coldly saying, Dad is very busy, how about we come back later? The Duke, a second later, said please come in, and Cardi was already trying to pull his mom away. After Lier entered, she got straight to the point and asked the Duke if he had time to go boating together since the weather had gotten better recently. The Duke, remembering the warmth of getting out of bed in the morning, wanted nothing more than to drop all his work on the assistant. However, he still kept a calm expression, saying, I've found a great place, and I'll make time next week to go. Lier hadn't expected the Duke to have planned ahead. The assistant quickly chimed in, wishing you and your family a pleasant holiday. This is also the reason you've been working so hard recently, isn't it? You didn't even go for your morning exercise and came straight to work. A few days later, the maid had already prepared the travel meals early. To prepare for the trip, Lier had even dressed up. At this moment, Cardi also ran over in the same blue outfit. After the last event, the child had not given up on competing for his mother's attention. Mom, I want to ride the carriage with you. Lier quickly saw through the little one's scheme. Cardi, you want to ride the carriage with Dad while I sit next to you, right? Upon hearing this, Cardi pouted and softly said, I just want to sit with Mom, but didn't dare complain about her arrangement. Not far away, the Duke was already waiting by the carriage. Seeing his wife dressed differently from usual with her shoulders exposed, he blushed. It's so sunny today, you should wear more or you'll get sunburned. He then looked away and softly said, such clothes should only be worn when I'm the only one around. Lier instantly became shy. The Duke, with an embarrassed expression, said, saying that is really strange. Cardi in time interrupted, Mom, it's too hot. Let's go inside. The Duke immediately picked up Cardi and looked at his wife. Inside the carriage, I'm wet from the cold magic. It's too hot outside, let's hurry inside. Lier extended her hand, confused as to why the Duke was smiling like that and even more confused that she thought he looked even more handsome. Just like that, the three of them boarded the carriage and set off. Compared to the atmosphere when they first met, it now felt like a harmonious family of three. Soon, the carriage arrived at the destination. The Duke was the first to get off the carriage, ready to help his wife out while reminding her to be careful. However, the hand he was going to take was grabbed by their son. Thanks, Dad. Looking at Cardi's smug expression, Lier couldn't help but laugh secretly. These two really like to compete in secret. Without saying a word, the Duke picked up his son and, despite Cardi's protest to help his mom out of the carriage, successfully helped his wife down. Cardi pouted unhappily. The Duke didn't plan to put his son down and instead pulled his wife along. Shall we go now? Lier shyly asked, how long will it take to get there? She received her husband's mischievous response, if you can't walk, should I carry you too? Cardi hurriedly blocked his father's mouth, don't talk before we get to the boat. Lier, seeing the cute sight of the father and son, couldn't help but look forward to their next outing. A while later, the three of them finally arrived at the lakeside. Lier wondered, it doesn't seem like this is the first time the Duke has been here. The Duke replied, that's because I've always wanted to come here with you. Today I'll keep my promise from last time. The woman unexpectedly discovered her husband's secret. Lier listened to the Duke's words as if it had been promised long ago. The Duke explained that this was before they knew they would have children. Lier hadn't expected her husband's promise from so long ago to still be something he wanted to keep. I'm willing to do anything for you. Lier hadn't expected her husband's promise from so long ago to still be something he wanted to keep. I'm willing to do anything for you. Faced with her husband's sudden confession, Lier blushed instantly. She tried to restrain herself, not letting her heart race every time she saw the Duke smile like that. Just then, the boat approached, and the Duke immediately picked up Cardi and put him on the boat. He then turned around and pulled Lier, still on the shore. After the little one got on the boat, he happily patted the seat beside him, urging his mom to come quickly. Isn't the view here beautiful? It's just like Caddy's eyes, so pretty. Upon hearing this, Caddy looked excitedly at Lier, surprised to learn that in her mom's eyes she was so beautiful. Once the three were safely on the boat, it set off toward the lake. The boatman reminded them that the boat would sway slightly. Caddy immediately acted coquettishly toward her mom, saying, "The boat is shaking so much, Mom, I'm scared." As Lier held her son, she felt like something was missing in her hands. Suddenly, she realized she had forgotten the lunch she had prepared. In a panic, she wanted to ask the boatman to turn around. The two, unsure of what was happening, nervously asked what was going on. Lier explained that she had left the food in the carriage. "That's very important. I can't let my husband and son go hungry." The Duke smiled helplessly. "You're still so clumsy."